Teka lang guys, someone asked, are there any other approaches available in considering visual rhetoric?
Sonchev suggested that studying visual rhetoric with rhetorical theory should be more comprehensive and inclusive. It should also involve human experiences to its discussion. That is why scholars in the field are into analyzing different visuals from architectural drawing and painting up to film and images in social media. Yun lang muna ulit. Bye!
Now, we go to the approaches presented by Sonja Foss. Here, we'll be looking deeper as to how scholars see visual rhetoric as a communicative artifact and as a perspective, and how they approach such areas of focus. First one is the theoretical framing. Visual rhetoric is the actual image that the rhetors create when they use visual symbols to communicate, conceptualized as a communicative artifact. For rhetorical scholars who are interested in visual symbols, it includes 2 to 3-dimensional art and is tangible evidence of or product of the creative act such as painting, advertisements, or a building. Remember that not every visual object is visual rhetoric. According to Foss, an image must have 3 characteristics in order to be considered as visual rhetoric. The first one is symbolic interaction, human intervention, and the presence of audience.
Visual rhetoric, like all communication, is a system of signs. The system of signs involves analyzing using the language that includes the signifier, signified, and the sign. It uses a theoretical framing known as semiotics. Signifier is an idea that associated with a word, image, or photo. The signified is a word where every time you see or read it, you think of a visual image. The sign, the union between the signifier and the signified. The semiotic approach offers a method for examining how visual representations convey meaning. In the most basic sense, a sign communicates when it is connected to another object, as the changing of leaves in autumn is connected to a change in temperature, or a stop sign is connected to the act of stopping a car while driving. However, an image must be more than just a sign to be considered a visual rhetoric. It must also be a symbolic and only loosely related to object it refers to. The second aspect of visual rhetoric that distinguishes it from other forms of rhetoric is the human intervention, which involves the conscious decision to communicate, as well as the conscious choices about the strategies to employ, such as color, form, media, and size. For example, trees are not inherently visual rhetoric. They became so only when human beings decided to use them as a symbol for Christmas holiday, or when they use it on brochures by environmentalists to create an appeal for environmental causes. Visual rhetoric then requires human action either in the process of creation or in the process of its interpretation. Human intervention, for example, might involve a creator, such a photographer. The photographer's act of taking the picture communicates intention and is a conscious act. The photographer thinks through issues such as framing, color, photographer's lighting, and the audience. He or she might also consider whether the photograph will be put on social media or in art gallery.
So you're telling us that human beings are subjected to putting symbols or meanings on images in order for it to be considered a visual rhetoric? It's like putting judgment on what we see and communicating it effectively.
Yes, Dr. Rizal, you're right. But there's one more characteristic. It is the presence of an audience. The presence of an audience is the third element of visual rhetoric. Understanding how components of visual imagery, referred to as the signifier, works together with different meanings to produce meaning. For the audience as well as semiotic meaning is the goal of visual rhetoric. The person who created the message and the audience both participate and interpret the image, which is called the signified and the sign. It means that the creator itself can also be his audience. Even if the only audience for an image is its creator, some audience, and thus the implied act of communication present in visual rhetoric. Therefore, the deliberate production or arrangement of colors, shapes, and other elements for the purpose of addressing an audience is known as the visual rhetoric. It is symbolic action because it involves human action in some aspect of visual communication, where it designates an arbitrary relationship between the image and the referent, and it communicates to an audience. Such as visual artifact can be interpreted as communicative message by viewers and studied by academics as a tangible artistic product. Semiotic, while focusing on signs and symbols, does not necessarily need to have a persuasive component. There is a significant distinction between semiotics and visual rhetoric. Contrary to visual rhetoric, persuasion is not the main objective of semiotics, which is a tool in the communication and communicative toolbox.
Okay, so there should be three characteristics present to be able to consider a visual object a communicative artifact. Oh, that's nice! The symbolic interaction, the human intervention, and the audience presence. Oh, that's nice!
What if visual rhetoric can be considered as a communicative artifact? How can we view it as a perspective instead of viewing its beauty on the surface level? Share ko lang guys, let us now look onto visual rhetoric as a perspective, also known as methodological framing. So studying through a rhetorical perspective is about having a rhetorical response to an image at hand instead of merely checking its aesthetics. To justify, it is not only checking the image color and texture or sensing its form, rather it is about attributing meaning to the said image. Further, scholars who use this recognize that the audience as lay viewers of the image. Hence, this framing assumes that the viewers interpret an image based on their personal knowledge and experience around them. It is about studying how the symbols are being communicated to lay viewers. Here, audience gives attention to the two components of the image, the presented and suggested elements. Presented elements are its major physical features such as space, materials used, and mass or size of the image, while the suggested elements are the allusions, concepts, ideas, and themes that the viewer may infer based on the presented elements. For example, an artwork about forest was created by using paints that was made by natural earth and mineral pigments and organic ingredients. This image would suggest the promotion of nature conservation or eco-friendly means of doing an art. Now, to the function of the image. At this stage, scholars attempt to analyze how the image functions for its viewers. Although, in this rhetoric perspective, the term function is different from purpose. The scholars would like to highlight how audience interpret the image rather than intentions of the artist of the image. So, the logic on this concept is that the scholars and the audience initially do not know the biography or history of the creator. Further, the creator is not present all the time to explain verbally his or her creation. Also, the scholars would like to promote a diverse interpretation of an image and or having wide range of experience of the image. Thus, it should stand independently from the intention of the creator. For instance, the function of the famous image of Kevin Carter titled Starving Child and Vulture may be inferred to raise awareness of starvation or danger in the wild by the audience. Another example is an image of the onslaught of Yolanda on an exhibit may act to memorialize the Filipinos who died there in Tacloban. Now let's go to the evaluation of the image. In this approach, there are few ways scholars would like to analyze images. First is analyzing if an image accomplishes the function suggested by itself through its color, forms, media, and content. For instance, the memorialization of Yolanda's onslaught, it used a black and white filter and used the cadavers as a subject. Another way is analyzing the function by reflecting on its legitimacy, soundness, which is determined by the implications and consequences of the function. The reason for this way of scrutinizing is to know whether the image is aligned with particular ethical system or offers a potential social or political freedom or right. For instance, if the forest painting mentioned above is painted using chemical base, then it may imply mockery of nature.
Aha! So visual rhetoric as a perspective does not rely only on the beauty of a visual on the surface, but it is more focused on the meaning of the image and its effectiveness for the audience.
Yes, Dr. Sel, you're right. I bet you learned something.
But I think you missed something. Someone asked, would you rather use deductive or inductive approach when analyzing visual images?
Well, to be honest, it depends. The scholars provide how they approach the areas of focus or approaches mentioned above. So we have the inductive and deductive approach. For the deductive approach, scholars use the visual image to provide explanation about rhetorical theories and concepts. To justify, they start using these theories and concepts to guide them as they check on the visual image. Next is the inductive approach. Here, scholars analyze visual image by exploring first the visual image, which will be their guidance in generating rhetorical theories and concepts. Scholars who use this treat visual image as significantly different from discursive symbols in some ways. With this difference, importing specific rhetorical concepts and theories is their concern.
Wow! I am starting to love the idea of visual rhetoric as this TikTok video unravels its beauty at its deepest core. There is no wonder why text and image relations flourish to this very day. Oh, I love that, huh?